What's going on, JW Faction? My name is Josh Williamson. So for this little video recipe, I'm going to show you how to make my absolute favorite pastry of all time, which is cinnamon rolls. Yeah, these are a tad bit time consuming, but they are easy to make. Don't let the time consuming part intimidate you. And also a few notes on this, there will be some ingredients that'll be measured in weight, so I suggest before trying out this recipe, get yourself a kitchen scale. But with that out of the way, let's get to it. To start this recipe off, into a little ramekin, I have a quarter of a cup of warm water that's at least between 105 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And to that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of white sugar and a little packet of yeast. This is equivalent to about 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. Now, what you want to do is you want to just slightly mix that in a little bit. And what we're going to do after that's done is we are going to let this mixture sit for at least 5 minutes. Just give the yeast a chance to activate. So on to that step. For the next step, in this big mixing bowl, I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And to that, I'm going to add a quarter of a cup of white sugar. Then just mix that in a little bit. Now we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of milk. 50 grams of melted butter. Now make sure that your ingredients are not too cold or too hot because we don't want to kill the yeast. And the yeast mixture that we made earlier. And about a teaspoon or 2 of vanilla extract. Now what we're going to do is just want to mix that in until it's well combined. And I almost forgot, while I was mixing, you want to crack in an egg. Now we can continue mixing this in. Alright, so for the next step, I put some flour on the counter. And I got my dough ball on the flour that's on the counter. What we're going to do now is we're just going to knead it for about 2 to 3 minutes until it becomes smooth and elastic. This is how you knead right here. You fold it like this and just push forward like that. Alright, after the dough is nice and smooth like that, what I've done now is I put the dough ball back into the bowl that I mixed it together with. And I grease the bowl with some cooking spray just to make sure that it doesn't stick. What we're going to do now is just going to cover this in plastic wrap, and we are going to let this sit for about an hour or until the dough is doubled in size. So onto that step. While the dough is rising, we're going to get started on the cinnamon filling for this recipe. Now in this little bowl, I have 100 grams of softened butter. To that, I'm going to add half a cup of brown sugar, a quarter of a cup of white sugar, and 2 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. Now what we want to do is we just want to mix that all in until it's well combined. Take a little while, but you'll eventually get there. Alright, and this is what the mixture should look like when you're done mixing it in. See, it's nice and soft and pasty like this. Alright, our dough has doubled in size. As you can see, it's a different size now. Now what we want to do is just give it a few good punches like that. And kind of knead it on this little flour surface. Yes, I put more flour on the surface. Just until it's nice and smooth. And for the next step, I got a rolling pin right here and I floured it a little bit just so it doesn't stick to the dough. What we're going to do now is going to roll this out into the shape of a rectangle. I'll show you what it's like when I'm done rolling out. Okay, so this is what the dough should look like when you're done rolling it out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the butter and cinnamon sugar mixture that we made before, and we're just going to spread it all over the dough. Now, many recipes suggest, spreading the butter on the dough and sprinkling the cinnamon sugar mixture on there separately. But the way I did it, it's much easier and it doesn't really make a difference with the overall product. So I'm going to finish spreading this out and I'll be back. Okay, so now the cinnamon sugar butter mixture has been spread out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the long ends, like I'm doing, and just roll it out like this. And that's what you're left with right there. And the next step is just a simple matter of using a knife and cutting off slices of the dough like this. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, is it? Yes, it is. And I'm going to finish cutting these up and I'll be back. Okay, so for the next step, I transferred the cuts of the dough into a 9x13" baking tray that I've lined with parchment paper, and I covered the tray with plastic wrap. And we're going to let this rise a second time for about an hour. They're not going to rise as much as they did the first time, they're just going to puff up a little bit. So we'll be back when that's done. Alright, now that the cinnamon roll dough has puffed up a little bit, what we're going to do now is I've got some melted butter here in this little cup, and I'm going to just brush it over the top of each dough ball. What this will do is it will give it like a golden brown look on top while it's baking. And after you do this, what you want to do is you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. And when it's preheated, you want to put these in the oven for about 30 minutes or until it's just turned golden brown slightly. So after I'm done doing this, onto that step. So while the cinnamon rolls are baking in the oven, we're going to get started on the vanilla icing that we're going to put on top of it when it's done baking. So to start with, into a bowl, I have 3 cups of powdered sugar. Now I'm going to add in half a cup of melted butter. And to that, I'm also going to add about 2 teaspoons worth of vanilla extract. And I have 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk in here. We're only going to add a little bit at a time because we don't know for sure if we need every single bit of this. So just pour in a little bit. And we just want to whisk that in real well. Okay, so I ended up using all of the milk that we had. That was about 3 tablespoons. Let's see. Now, depending on how thick or how thin you like your icing, add more milk or add less milk. But I like it like this. So I'm going to let the cinnamon rolls finish baking and we'll come back and top these off and give it a little taste. Alright, our cinnamon rolls have just come out of the oven. They smell amazing. Like, I wish you were in this kitchen right now to smell what I'm smelling. But anyways, while the cinnamon rolls are still warm, we're going to take some scoops of the icing and just dollop it on. Now, me personally, I like a lot of icing on my cinnamon rolls. Now, depending on how much you want, add less icing, add more icing. But anyways, I'll come back whenever I'm done putting the icing on top of the cinnamon rolls. This is how much icing I like on my cinnamon rolls. Alright, our cinnamon rolls are done. I took one of the cinnamon rolls out, one of the smallest ones, and I put it on a plate, and I'm gonna give some of it a taste. Man, I love cinnamon rolls. So good. So good. The dough is so fluffy. You get that nice taste of the cinnamon and the icing on top. Absolutely incredible. This is my favorite pastry of all time, and I really hope you try this recipe out. But if you do, leave it in the comment section down below and tell me what you thought, whether you liked it or you hated it. And if you liked this video, thumb it up. If you hate this video, thumb down. And be sure to subscribe and become a member of the JW Faction or journey to 10,000 subscribers. See you later.